Welcome to another episode of the Villa Pride Down Under podcast, an Aston Villa podcast, supporters podcast brought to you from Australia. Hello, everyone. It's been a while with international breaks and obviously with time differences here in Australia. Things have been difficult for us, but we're back on the road, and hopefully now we'll be starting to throw out the podcast regularly again. Just myself and this man Tess tonight. How are you, Tess?
Yeah, good. I didn't see you get selected for the Irish team. That's why you were gone so long. But the international break did you all right, didn't it?
No, I think, to be honest, no. If I wasn't turning 40 next year, I think I'd have a chance of getting into that Irish team at the moment. So the less said about them, the better. How are you, Tess? It's been a while. We've just, as I said in the intro there, we've obviously had a big time difference change here in Australia. So it meant myself, you and Ryan are literally all on a different time zone as it is. So we've been trying to work through that and then international breaks. But I think we're starting to find our happy medium again.
Yeah, it's just when you get the time difference, we don't have a daylight saving here in Queensland, but when you do get the time difference, obviously in Perth where you are, you get, I think you're like 2 hours behind, right? Queensland, and then Rhino is like 1 hour ahead. So like at the moment, it would be like, I don't know, 10:30 or something for Rhino, and it's 9:30 for me in the evening. So it gets very late and yeah, kind of difficult. The only good thing is I get kind of reasonable times to still watch the game in the evening, and first thing in the morning, like 5 o'clock in the morning, to watch Champions League isn't too bad for Rhino. Like he's already on his way to work at 6 o'clock in the morning, so might be worse for you actually.
Good for me, actually, to be honest. Like so,
yeah.
I just have to get up a bit earlier. But it's still not too bad because I'm working so close to home now. Even when the time changes in the UK next week, it'll be 4 o'clock. So at the moment it's a 3 a.m. kickoff, but I leave for work at 5:30 minutes. So it's not really too bad, the time differences. Where I'm going to notice it is the Saturday night kickoffs. So the 3 p.m.s will be 11 instead of 10. But then the 12:30 will be 1 instead. So yeah, that's all right. We always manage it. We just know we don't get much sleep during the season, and that's okay too.
And that's perfect, especially during this season, because we're having such a great time and we're having a really good run at everything so far this season.
Oh, absolutely! It's been a tremendous start to the season. I can't believe how well things are going at the moment. It makes it getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning to watch us people on you 2-0 easy. It's just I just think back to those dark days because I always got up for all the games all over the years, and tell you it's a lot easier at the moment than it was a few years ago, I can tell you.
It makes it enjoyable to have to actually wake up that time and then you go to work and you're buzzing for the day.
I had many a dark days going into work after some horrific results in the championship and relegation seasons, but all that seems to be behind us, thankfully. We're going to have a look at the Champions League, obviously, this week. 3 wins. 9 points, 3 clean sheets. I mean, It really is the perfect start, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, yesterday we were looking at top of the league, of the Champions League. So 9 points, 6 goals, 0 goals conceded. I'll tell you what's really, really exciting for me is that we've got some players who have played in some big, big games. You know, I'm talking about like the Emi Martinez's of this world. Pau Torres has played in, I think, in finals as well before. But these players that, you know, Unai Emery selected, big game players. Like, I'm super impressed with Diego Carlos against Bologna. I thought he was fantastic and like very close to man of the match for me. You know, Emi Martinez has turned up. The defense has turned up. I think all those players are buzzing for the Champions League, and we're starting to just show that we are a really good team. And something else that I noticed during that game, it felt to me like, I know Ollie wasn't playing, but it felt like we were purring. It just against Bologna. I don't know if it was just because of who the opposition was, but we seemed to play in our structure, in our style, but we just seemed like as the game got on, we just started purring. Everything just kind of falling into place. You notice that there were a few of the little sort of 1-2 touches, a couple of flicks and tricks to try and make space, and we just looked really, really, really good. It was I really enjoyed the game watching us beat Bologna 2-0.
Yeah, just before we continue, Tess, you're freezing a lot there, mate. We missed a lot of that.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't get to to see. I can't see it. It
Yeah.
looks like I'm working here.
Yeah. No, you're freezing. You're freezing this and then quite a bit. So hopefully that leaves us soon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've noticed
like I
there's a bit
mean,
of a
I
delay.
probably
So if I stop talking, there might be just a slight bit of delay. But yeah, everything else is looking okay, internet wise, etc.
okay. That's all right. Yeah, you're just freezing a touch, but hopefully that'll leave us. Yeah, Diego Carlos. I thought he was excellent. He seems to turn up big in the big games. Um, I don't know, like I was reading a thing the other day, and it was a point that I kind of thought was really good actually. Don't worry, I seen it might have been the Athletic or something, but he seems to thrive more in the games where he's busier, where he's gonna, like these games that we're really controlling, like in the league, he seems to just switch off a little bit here and there with mistakes. But when when we're coming up against, like he was brilliant against Bayern, he was brilliant against Man City and Arsenal last season, very good against Bologna tonight. It's been very good, really. He's had a really good October, really, like since he had a bit of a poor game there. He had a couple of weeks ago, he had a poor game. He was a forward. Oh, Ipswich. He had a real poor game against Ipswich. But to be fair to him, he's bounced back now, and he's been tremendous, really, since. But you talk about big game players, Tess, and the one that sticks to mind for me straight away as a big game player is probably one of our more experienced players, to be honest, and that's Youri Tielemans. He's just gone to another level this season, hasn't he?
What a player! What a player! And I said, I don't know if you saw when Rhino and I did the pod the other day, and I was just in awe of what Youri Tielemans is bringing. And I was concerned, Dougie Luiz was leaving the club to go to Juventus. I was kind of a bit concerned that who's going to be that player that gets hold of the ball because Kamara was injured. Who's going to get hold of the ball and be our playmaker in the middle of the park? Youri Tielemans has just turned up. I mean, he might have moments in games where it might be a little bit slow, but for me, he's able to dictate games. He knows when to keep the ball and hold on to the ball. His passing range is unbelievable. And he plays with a smile on his face, Youri Tielemans. He reminds me of one of those players who are going to be a leader in our squad and in our team. Really, really excited about him. Control, the way that he speaks to other players during the game, that you watch his movement as well. And sometimes, he's in one place and he's confusing the opposition because, he might take a step forward and they're trying to go with him, and he's just stepped back and made himself a bunch of space. I mean, what a talent he is, and so glad to have him in the squad. And it goes to show that Unai Emery is actually getting the best out of the players that we have. Delighted to have Youri Tielemans, and he was a free transfer, wasn't he? I don't think we even paid for him, as in terms of a fee.
Oh yeah, he was a free transfer.
So fantastic. I can't speak highly enough of him, and I'm like this close. So for those who are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, I'm like very close to ordering another Villa shirt with his name on the back, him or Rodgers, because they've been fantastic for me.
Yeah, I just like his level of intelligence. I mean, there was no question about it. We were all very excited when we signed him, Torres and Diaby that summer. We signed them, and we all thought about how important Tielemans will come on to be. And it didn't really materialise for a while because Kamara and Dougie were just playing so well. Like Tielemans was kind of not even getting in the team really. He was getting a few minutes here and there, and he had a really good preseason. Actually, I remember the game where they hooked up the body cam to him against Newcastle over in America, and it's just really, really interesting to watch. Like, I thought this lad's going to be some addition to us now. I always really rated him as a player. Like, but then Kamara and Luiz just had that place nailed down, and he was sometimes he was coming in playing the number 10 the last 20 minutes. Sometimes he'd come in and replace Dougie, but he didn't really have a home in the team, And I kind of he just looks absolutely ready made for this whole setup. Like, and you just kind of have to wonder if Emery visioned this all the while, like with bringing Tielemans in for on a free transfer, kind of almost bedding him into the team, not rushing him in, because a name like that pretty much other clubs would have to, they just wouldn't be leaving a player like that on the bench. He was kind of our big signing, even though he was a free. He's probably the biggest name we brought in, And suddenly you're kind of like, where is he going to fit in this team now? Because Dougie's playing so well, and suddenly Dougie's sold. Tielemans comes in and just looks this season just ready made for that Dougie role. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Dougie because he was really good to us, but he's almost playing that Dougie role better than Dougie was playing now at this first 8 games, because his ability to find passes through the lines, and I know I'm talking to Dougie's biggest fan here, like in yourself, so we understand like how good Dougie was. Like some of the passes Dougie made through the lines was just, you'd be in awe sometimes, but Tielemans just seems to have that more rounded to his game. Like Dougie seemed to kind of thrive when Kamara was with him, just so because he got that freedom in space. Tielemans doesn't seem to need to have that, like, because there's even games where they put Onana a little further back and Tielemans goes that bit forward, or else vice versa. Tielemans can play that rough, so he just seems to be that little bit more rounded. And you kind of have to wonder if this was the plan all along for the FFP. When they signed Youri the year before, well, did they always know that they were going to cash in on Luiz? Like, we know he was the most sellable asset, but like the way it all kind of came out, it was like, an opportunist Juventus came in, but it kind of seems like it might have been the plan FFP all along, and they kind of bred Youri Tielemans for this role. I don't know what you think about that, but it seems more and more like that because he's walked into this role.
Yeah, I actually think we already knew that there was a point where Arsenal were coming in for Dougie Luiz, and there was, this very close section of where it's possible that Dougie was going to leave. I think it was while Gerrard was there, he was going to leave and go to another club. Ended up signing a new contract because, at that moment, he was actually one of our better players. We didn't have somebody who was a bit like him in the middle of the park, who can control a game, who has the passing range. But Youri Tielemans, let's not forget, I think he's got a bunch more experience. I think he's, as you mentioned, a bit more of a rounded player who can do a bit of everything, and he plays for his national team all the time, whereas
captains at times. Captain's better.
Oh, captain as well, yeah. So
at times, yeah.
And Dougie at times wasn't just able to get into his national team. And so you look at what Youri Tielemans brings, the experience of playing a lot of international football. He had experience in winning trophies, all these sorts of things. I think he just needed to be that main guy. And in terms of fair play, in financial fair play, I think it may have been obvious that, okay, we might actually get a good figure for Dougie Luiz, and who do we bring in to kind of replace him? Might take a bit of time for that player to get used to the structure, but you're not going to sell Youri Tielemans for the amount of money that you sold Dougie Luiz. But there was already interest in clubs wanting to buy Dougie Luiz, and you could probably get really good money for him. And Unai and Monchi then knowing that they've got a player in Youri Tielemans who they didn't pay a transfer fee for, but they come in and he has a bit more of experience. He's a more rounded player, and he's one of those players that I think can be coached.
Tactically, he's obviously much more adaptable to certain roles, and that's not being disrespectful to Dougie, but that's just a fact. I mean, the thing about Youri Tielemans, and I'm not bringing this into compare the two because one plays for us and one doesn't, and Dougie done amazing things for us and we loved him, but the team is evolving and moving forward, and like people forget too, Youri Tielemans played Champions League football at 16 for Anderlecht. I mean, it's a serious achievement, or 17, I can't remember which one. He made his debut at 16 anyway for Anderlecht, but he played Champions League at like 17 for Anderlecht, so he's bags of experience. He's played in the champ, so yeah. Like I look at that team now, and it's kind of like you see like Dougie and Kamara, like they were so good last year. They were unbelievable in that first half of the season. And if you told me at that point of the season that we'd be playing Champions League games and beating teams, and neither of the two of them would have started, like you wouldn't have visioned that last year, And that probably shows you the brilliance of Emery, what he can do, and that alone, like, would show what the man is capable of from a managerial sense. Because there was a period, like when Villa went on that big run when we won all our home games before Kamara got injured. There's an argument like that Kamara and Luiz were probably the best midfield partnership in the league at that point when we won those 15 or 16 home games. And they're like, and that's why I never try and be disrespectful to Dougie, because like I think some of the slating he gets on some Villa fans on Twitter is a bit much, because people forget what Dougie actually gave us. There was that period where him and Kamara, they were unplayable. They were just a different level. But the way we've evolved as a team tactically, I don't think Dougie could carry the team like Youri does now. If you
No,
get me, like he dictates it. Do you know what he does? Like it reminds me, not at the same level yet because obviously this man has won 11 Premier Leagues, like so it's very hard to compare him. But when Paul Scholes dropped deeper and his ability to speed up the game and slow down the game, he basically controlled the pace of the game. That's what Tielemans is doing for us. He decides when Morgan Rogers is going to take the ball and run. He decides when JJ is going to hold the ball and play it back. He's dictating the pace of our movement. Everything goes through him. So it's absolutely brilliant. But you know what he does that Paul Scholes didn't do? Is he makes tackles as well. He wins the ball back for us when we're under pressure. It's
Hang on a second.
just a sensational footballer, and
Scholesy did make tackles. It's just that he got red cards for most of them. So
yeah. But that's very true, yeah. But that's what you're kind of looking at, is that kind of later day Paul Scholes who could shoot from outside the box, who could dictate, literally speed up the game. Because obviously younger in the years, Paul Scholes was played a lot further forward, but he reminds me now of Paul Scholes in that later years where he just literally had control of the match the whole time. And that's what Tielemans is doing at the moment. Like, if we're moving slow, it's because he's slowing the ball down. He's taking the ball, giving it back to defenders. He's putting it out to the wingers, to fullbacks. When we want to get it forward, he's getting it forward quickly to Bailey or Rogers, whoever. It's brilliant. He's just, his football IQ is just, it's through the roof. Like, and that for me is probably the comparison difference between himself and Luis. I think they're both gifted with the ball at their feet, but I just think Youri has it when it comes to the bigger picture of what's going on around him, Luis is brilliant when he has a holding midfielder next to him, but Tielemans can almost be his own holding midfielder and still
he can do both.
I just think it's incredible, and what a signing! Just to be able to lose. Not many teams of our size could recover from a loss like that. We lose someone who was as influential last year to know him not being there, having to cash in on him and bringing someone in, not affecting your FFP. Obviously he's brought in the year before, so he's brought in a free, but didn't play so much until the end of the season. And I just don't think there's that many managers or clubs around could handle that. But let alone make it look like a benefit.
We have honest players. We've got honest, decent, good players, good talented players. I don't think in our team you can say anyone in our team is a superstar as such. Without trying to sound disrespectful. I don't think we've got superstars. Manchester City, they've got the Haalands of this world and the Rodris of this world. They've got some superstars. But what we do have is we have some good, honest players with some really good talent and young, talented players. And Unai Emery must be living the dream at the moment, being able to coach these players who are following the instructions that he's providing, the structure that he wants to play. He must be having such a good time. And just back to Tielemans, I just think he's a piece of the jigsaw puzzle that we might have been missing, who can do a bit more of everything. And I still love Dougie. But, I'm loving what Youri Tielemans is bringing to the team. I love watching him play. He plays with a smile on his face as well, doesn't he? Youri Tielemans. As you mentioned, I reckon he just deserves a lot of credit for what we're doing as a club at the moment as well, and what he brings into this side.
We're not going to analyze the game too much tonight, Tess, because it's been done on other podcasts. So we're not going to go deep into the analysis of the game, because there's plenty of talking points we can do without analysing the game. But what I did want to discuss with you, Tess, is obviously the two of us, we watched Villa for a long time from Australia. We speak to each other before the game, before we get up, like we're both getting up in the middle of the night watching games and stuff. The Bayern Munich performance was brilliant for its ability to beat one of the big teams that didn't come. Bologna, for me, this was just a performance of us. I don't want to use a cliche, but this is the performance that said to me we've arrived, as in we're going into Champions League games, and the teams that aren't that super level, I will never expect Villa to go to Bayern Munich or play Bayern Munich and control the game for 90 minutes. I'm not unrealistic as a fan, I will be delighted to watch them have a tactical plan and suffer parts of the game, but keep their clean sheet and then win the game. Because I know we have goal scorers in our team, so if we can keep a clean sheet, we have a good chance of beating these big teams, So I've no problem with us setting up like that, and I never will, because I'm a realist. I'm not expecting us to to be playing all these teams off the park, except for Man City last year, right? Because that surprised me.
We
But
100% played them off the park.
what we did to Bologna Wednesday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday morning for us, it wasn't without risk. We had a couple of chances till we felt our way into the game. We conceded a couple of good chances, and let's not beat around the bush. A better team would have punished us there. A better striker, okay? But what we have is a goalkeeper world class who's very hard to beat anyway, so we can give up these chances. But what we did do was after 10 minutes, and I don't want to be sound too hyperbolic here, but I thought it was one of the best performances I've seen from any Villa team in the last few years. It may not have had the glamour name of Bayern Munich or Man City. Bologna, they're not a bad, they're a good outfit, but it's the way we walked into this team, like we've been in the Champions League for years, that Bologna should be fearing us. We're going to knock the ball around. We're going to play the game at our pace. Yes, we'll give up a few chances, but we'll still create far more than you. And the word I would have is we had a bit of a swagger about us, he was obviously gave Morgan Rogers that freedom, as in when you get that ball, you go. You don't show that defense too much respect. You get that ball, you go, and we're nearly there. We're nearly showing that we're a big team. Like that big team mentality where like the Bolognas need to fear Villa. You know what I mean? And it's so good to see. It's just I just thought absolutely,
no fear.
absolutely.
No fear.
We'll have a plan for the big teams, and we'll beat the lesser teams. That seems to be the mentality, and I'm all here for it.
I think it was what I was trying to point out is that of course, Bologna are no mugs as well. They're in the Champions League as well, and they've come to Villa Park, and I think they had the better of the early chances. We did look a little bit out of sorts for the first few chances, but the way that we play, we're always going to give up chances. But then, as I mentioned, we were purring. It just felt like we were just a well-oiled engine, just getting better and better and better throughout the whole game. And we're playing serious teams now, and so you got to expect that other teams are going to get chances to score goals. What we do have is a strong defence at the moment, which we're proving every single game that we've played in the Champions League. We've got a world-class keeper who is making unbelievable saves to keep us in the game or to prevent goals from going in. But the talent and the confidence that you're getting from the attacking players going forward. All right, so caveat, there has been, one player who is not quite up to the standard that they had it towards the end of the season. And I'd imagine that Unai's trying to play Leon Bailey to try and get him his confidence or get him his fitness, one of the two, and he hasn't really been on form this season like he was last season. And players do have dips in form, and I think if he's injured, Bailey, then he needs to get it right. And what I would do is, try to bring him on as an impact player like he did last time. Come on as an impact player for a few games until you start finding that confidence and finding that fitness. I was actually a little bit disappointed with his first half. And then I was like, maybe, he'll come off at half time and Jadon will come on or something like that. But then he comes on the second half and he could have scored a goal, But then after that, it
was actually a good effort, I thought. Snapshot.
Yeah, I mean, we created a great chance. It wasn't far away, was it? To be honest, that opportunity. So, but yeah, he's just not quite there yet. So, but we were just purring. Morgan Rogers, his control when he's got the ball at his feet is unbelievable because he's like a big unit, isn't he? Like Morgan Rogers, he looks like a really big unit. And the way that he's got that control of the ball in those close quarters is unbelievable for me. I love watching him play. And he just plays and he just plays and he finishes games, doesn't he? Like he stays on, he gets 90 minutes most of the time because you can't take him off because he can do anything and he helps the team tick. Really, really good. Can we talk about Ian Maatsen as well? I thought he was fantastic. Ian Maatsen was a very, very good addition in this lineup. Comes in, hasn't played much football to be honest. But you wouldn't know it by the way that he played against this team, for sure. His pace, energy, positioning and trying to get in the right spaces at the right times. I just thought he was fantastic as well. So kudos to our team. Kudos to Unai Emery because the performance was fantastic. I really loved watching that performance, and yeah, I would probably say it's my best performance that I've watched this season so far, at least. The Man City game for me, the way that we played against Man City last season, I think that's still my favourite game because of who the opponent was. I still think we were awesome on that day.
Nobody does that to Man City. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no, and nobody, and if anyone has, it hasn't been for a very long time. But what we did on that day, we got everything right, and we just looked smooth, silky, in control, confident, and that was one of my. I've got to say, it's probably one of my favorite games that I've watched us play against top quality opposition. But this game against Bologna, I just felt like we was like, I think you used the words that we've arrived in the Champions League, and we were just purring. Yeah. I just felt like that well-oiled engine. We were looking really, 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 really good.
You're right to mention Ian Matson there and Morgan Rogers. Obviously, we've touched on Youri Tielemans because for the three of them, I thought they were off the scale good. Like the three lads, I thought they were brilliant throughout. Tielemans, Rogers. No, as you say, look, Bailey's a bit off it. I actually thought he tried really hard for the first 20 minutes. I thought he really wanted to be involved. It just wasn't working for him, and then he got frustrated, and I think he just lost his way. And I think any other game he would have been taken off at half time, but I just think Emery's trying to manage him a little bit at the moment and not take the last bit, the confidence that he has, because he was buzzing around the pitch for the first 20 minutes. Like he was really into it, but it just, what he was trying wasn't coming off, and it just got more into his head, and then he started losing the ball, and then it just grew into frustration, and yeah, he was buzzing though when the goal went in, he was still on the pitch. It's just not working for him at the moment. But look, players are allowed. We're not going to have 16 men. I don't want to come down too hard on him because I know Bailey will still have a huge impact at some point this season. Whether that's come off the bench in a game, whether that's at Christmas when we get loads of games and he'll just suddenly pull out a performance, and it might be a game where Villa are poor and he'll have one of those beautiful goals he had last season where he cuts in off the wing and puts him in the top corner. He'll have his moment and he'll spark back into it. I'm not overly concerned.
Probably just needs a goal, right? He probably just needs a goal. Probably just needs a little bit more consistency in because he's known for his dribbling and going past players, getting crosses in and having shots on goal. Maybe a goal will help him, but I don't like, for my personal, I'm not going to be, I don't want to start getting on players' backs about having a few poor performances. Every player goes through a stage where they're not performing as good. We had John McGinn who didn't really have a good game recently. Was it against Wolves or someone like that? Didn't really have a really good game. But you can't just if it's consistent, and then I don't think the manager picks them. I don't think the manager picks players who are just bang not in form or not trying hard enough to get into form. I think Bailey's trying to get into form or trying to get fitness.
The fact that Bailey's even starting, he's obviously showing something at training as well. Yeah, exactly that. The fact that he's starting these games, he's obviously showing something at training. If he wasn't even being asked to training, then he wouldn't be starting. That's the reality of it. You know what I mean? I totally agree with you. And look, Philigine's suspended again, and we'll look ahead to the Bournemouth game in a minute. But I'd like to see him start again. Personally, a lot of people will disagree with that. I think he should. It's a good game for him. There's a lot of space out there. Yes, McGinn should come in, but I think McGinn, anyway, we'll talk about that after anyway. But I just want to touch off with the three lads, Rogers, Matson and Tielemans. As I said, in my opinion, we're off the scale good, and they were the three of the best in a really good 8 or 9 performances. The one thing that really pleased me, I must say, is that Ian Matson and John Duran came in. They came in for 2 players who have been really good this season, in Ollie Watkins and Luca Dean, because Luca Dean for me has just been tremendous this season. I think there isn't a Villa fan out there that can disagree with that. And I remember I read a good article from Jacob Ramsey there recently about Luca Dean, and how he was saying that he interviewed people close to Emery who said Emery was not happy with Luca Dean when he first moved in, said his performances, he's constantly speaking to him about his performances. And now Emery is saying in press conferences what he can show to the other players of how when you knuckle down and you listen to your directions and you follow those directions, the impact you can have. And Luca Dean is making himself almost undroppable. Like, he wasn't dropped the other night; he was rested. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he was rested. But what the point I wanted to make was, though, Ollie Watkins obviously is Ollie Watkins, and he tactically just he offers so much for the way we play. Even when he's not scoring, Ollie Watkins is vital there, and Emery loves him. And anyway, anyone that questions Ollie Watkins, like, I think Emery would be the first to step in and tell him that he's vital to us, whether he's scoring or not. You know, because the tactical setup, like he always says in interviews after the game about how Watkins is always working for me tactically, so he's obviously got a game plan all the time for him. But to be able to bring the rest, Luca Dean and Ollie Watkins, and then bring Ian Matson on and John Duran, and for the quality not to dip, it's just so pleasing because they both also have very different attributes to Watkins and Luca Dean. So it's just bringing a variety to our play that's just so pleasing, man. And he's fast, isn't he, Ian Matson? Did you see that moment there where Rogers won the ball, skipped around two of them, played the perfect weighted ball in front of Matson. He beat the fullback. The fullback had to pull him down. Yellow card.
Had to pull him down.
Yeah,
because otherwise he's in.
Great yellow card. Like, you couldn't do anything about it. But the turn of pace just to beat him, like, just.
He was phenomenal. I thought he was. I mean, I think there's not, and he's got Champions League experience as well, doesn't he, Ian Matson? I thought he did nothing wrong.
Champions League team of the season, sure.
Yeah, I didn't think he did anything.
He was in the Champions League team of the year, sure. Yeah.
So fantastic for him to be able to just come in and just get straight in and adapt to the way that we were playing. As I said, like I think we had a shaky 10 minutes to start with, but after that, I just thought he was great. I thought his position wise, he was good. He was willing to get forward using his pace. A couple of times getting it in and around the box, ready to get across the balls in and stuff like that, causing their right back all sorts of issues. They were worried about him for sure. And just to be able to come in after not playing many games was just fantastic in my opinion. I just thought he was great, and I'd like to see more of him, to be honest. Not to say that I don't want to see Luca Dean, but I would like to see him get more minutes, and in some games maybe Ian Matson might be the preferred option so that Dean can have a rest and vice versa. But what we do have is two quality left backs, or left wing backs if you like, who can come and impact the game, start the game or finish the game, and music to our ears. That's the kind of two players for every position that Unai Emery's been talking about for such a long time.
Oh, 100%, because like he's just when Christmas comes and stuff, like, you're going to need to be able to rest these players, and this is the perfect opportunity. Like, beating Bayern Munich, let's not gloss over it. Like, beating Bayern Munich, surprisingly, it probably caught Emery off guard too. He probably had a plan to beat them, but I'm sure he would have taken a draw in that game. The fact that we did beat them allowed him to go into that Bologna game and make changes and freshen things up a little bit. You've Crystal Palace in the Cup next week, another chance to rest a few. So there's games now where you're going to have them, because that's going to prepare them all for Christmas when the games come thick and fast, and you literally are going to have to swap players. So to have this opportunity now to give them all a run, it's really, really good. John Duran obviously got his goal. He wasn't too impressed coming off. I don't mind that. I don't mind that.
I don't care.
What's your thoughts?
I don't care that he's young, and we all know that it's been a difficult ride for him since he came to the Premier League. He was probably promised to play games regularly, and that hasn't quite happened when he got to the club. But when he has been coming on as an impact sub, he's been getting the fans off their feet every single time he gets on the pitch. The supporters are wondering what he's going to do next, and what's been really nice is to see that he hasn't been sort of coming on making an impact, or in the terms of mischievous ways. He's been coming off the bench and making an impact and scoring goals. I love John Duran. I love what he's about. I know he's a little bit rough around the edges, but he's exciting to me to watch. You just don't know what he's going to do. And one thing, there was a moment where he had the ball probably about 25 yards outside, and the crowd were probably shouting "shoot!" and then like he kind of squared up to shoot, but then gave the ball to Rodgers, who took the shot and just kind of missed from the right post.
Yeah.
But what that showed to me is a bit of maturity in him, because he could have easily have gone for that shot. Strikers are greedy; they do that.
The crowd going
But it
shit.
showed,
Yeah, and he knows he can do
yeah,
it. Yeah,
yeah, and it gave him. I saw a bit of maturity in that moment from him, where like he lined up to shoot. They were probably thinking that he's going to shoot, and then he gave the ball to Rodgers, which was a decent pass, and just Rodgers was just unlucky not to score there. So I love John Duran. I love what he's bringing to the team. I'm glad that he got to have a start in the game to see what he can do with, you know, not quite the team that we play regularly in the Premier League week in, week out, but there were enough of the experienced players playing in that game so that he would get opportunities to score. They could feed him opportunities to score. And I think he did all right. I think, he got his goal. He would have been disappointed to come off, thinking that, the game's opened up a little bit. Maybe I can get one or two more goals against this team, because, to be honest, we were all over them at that time. I think they were tired. They looked tired to me. And when the game had opened up, we had opportunities to score. Ramsey had an opportunity to score in the last couple of minutes there as well. So, yeah, he would be disappointed to come off. So what? Because you want players to be disappointed because they think they can add more. And next time he'll get an opportunity to see if he can add more to the goal that he got in another game. So I thought he was very good. I enjoyed watching him play. I didn't think he looked out of place. I was happy. They had a chance from the set piece, that the same kind of set piece that Oddie scored the other week there. He had an opportunity and the keeper saved it. So it's not like he wasn't getting chances and testing the goalkeeper. I thought he did all right.
Yeah. I thought he actually had a really pretty good performance. It was probably the best starting performance I've seen from him, because, as you said, he had that header from the corner from similar to Watkins' position as a keeper, made a great save for it. But also he won a lot of ball for us, where he had that little flick on header for Bailey, who was very unlucky to get into the box. And I thought he definitely showed a bit of more maturity. All around, I'd say brilliant performance. We move on. We've Club Brugge in a few weeks. I think win that, and I think we've 1 foot in the knockouts.
Yeah.
Morgan
Big shout to
Rogers'
John
ball
McGinn, though.
or Duran's goal was absolutely
Yeah.
delicious. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just jumped to it there. I shout out for John McGinn. John McGinn came to Aston Villa in the Championship,
Yeah.
and he's been with our club now. How long has he been? 6 years, 5 years, 6 years.
I think he said this is his 7th season, I think he said it was.
7th season.
This is his 7th season, apparently.
Came to Villa and been with us since the Championship. And now he's playing Champions League football and he's scoring Champions League goals. I'm so delighted for him, because he had a really rough spell. At one point, I was one of the ones I didn't know whether he'd reached his level, and that was it under Gerrard. And maybe that goes to show how poorly we were managed at that particular time. But John McGinn has been...
I had massive doubts about him, I'm not going to lie. Yeah.
Ever present. He's been ever present for us for many years now. And, when he signed his new deal, he said he's found a home at Aston Villa. And he's welcome to be at home with us. I was just really happy for him to score a goal in the Champions League. And I when he celebrated, I could see his... normally if he scores a goal in the Premier League, the first thing he does is run off and he, does his celebration with the goggles and everything like that.
Yeah.
But I genuinely think he didn't mean to score. It was a great ball in, but he did score, and you could see in his face that, oh my God, I've just scored a goal in the Champions League. Like, what the hell?
It's unreal.
Really happy for him, especially seeing as he's come back into the team and starting, just because, he did have a poor game recently and then had a bit of an injury and etc. So really delighted for John McGinn. Yeah.
Before we move ahead to amazing what he's done. Before we move on to look ahead to the Bournemouth game, before we wrap up quickly, I just wanted to say, anyone who's obviously listened to us on previous pods or this pod or whatever will know that I'm a huge fan of Boubacar Kamara's. So I just must say, to see him come on and get 20 minutes and just watch Booba just seamlessly come back and just do what he does and just control the pace of the game. It was absolute joy to watch. I mean, we're sitting in a position now where we were able to take Onan off at half time and bring Ross Barkley on. And we were able to take Tielemans off after 70 minutes and bring Kamara on. It's an absolute dream to have a central midfield for them. Like what they can offer us, different options between them. It's just sensational, because Kamara can't do what Youri can do is in the passing range, but from the ball control and helping slap back, and just he's going to offer us another different addition to make us another variety to our play. And it'll be interesting to see the two of them play together in certain games, because they'll be a joy to watch together. Shout out to Ross Barkley as well. Thought he was really good again. Really, really good. Like when he comes on, he's just turned out to be a serious addition for very little money again.
Speaking of maturity, though, because Ross Barkley was one of those players who was a sort of more of an attacking midfielder in his earlier days, and he didn't quite find a right space after he left Everton, did he? Like where did he go? To Chelsea? Was it Chelsea or someone? And didn't quite make it there. And it kind of fell off, didn't he? He kind of fell off, and you didn't really see him around. And I didn't know where he'd gone. And then I heard that he'd gone overseas. Did he play in France or something like that? Or
he went to Nice, yeah.
And did all right, but then ended up back in England and playing with Luton Town and did a really, really good job there. But that was a really good opportunity for him to say, do you know what, I'm still a really good player. But it showed how much he's grown up as a player as well, and found a place where he can play that suits his style of play as well, using that experience that he's got. And he's come into our team. And I tell you, like, whenever I see him come on, I'm not scared at all. When I first heard we were signing him, I didn't understand why, really. But as with many of us Villa supporters, I'm like, if Unai is saying he wants to bring him in, then bring him in. Let's see what he can do. I didn't watch him much at Luton. But ever since he's come here and he's come on, and even in pre-season, I started to see what he's all about. He's bringing a lot of experience, a lot of maturity. When we are needing to slow the game down, he can do that. His passing ability has been really, really good.
He brings a calm test, doesn't he? He brings a calm, because Onana brings the kind of get the crowd up and buzz and get us ticking, get us push forward. Barkley comes on, he brings calm, which is totally different to the Ross Barkley.
He's not doing a lot of running, is he?
Yeah. No, he's playing within that smart space. He's really good, and I think that's the important thing as well. As his injury record in the past obviously wasn't great, so obviously they've found a way, whether that's through the Luton physios or whatever, because Luton got 32 games out of him in the league, and obviously, so they've obviously found a way now where, right, if you're doing so many yards and a half, you're going to be under pressure with the muscle injuries and stuff. He's playing within short space for himself. He's still getting up and hitting the strikers when needed, though. But it is brilliant. They've obviously found the best way for him to play, where he's not clocking up the kilometers in the game, but he's just using his brain, because there's absolutely no doubt that he's a gifted footballer, and just when you look at that now, when you have Onana, Barkley, Kamara, and Youri Tielemans, I mean, that's a serious central midfield forward to be able to pick and rotate and use for different games. Offer you different things, all four of them as well. Offer you different things together too. Like you put Tielemans and Kamara, it's very different to Tielemans and Onana. You put Barkley and Kamara, Barkley and Onana, I don't think you'll ever really see Barkley and Onana together personally. It'll either be Kamara and Tielemans with one or two of the other. But just to be able to switch and shape, and the main thing is to be able to rest people and not have that. Like if we had the team we had this season, last season, we would have won the conference. I have no doubt about that. Being able to rest players, switch it up, but that's gone. That's gone now. But look, just amazing. Yes, I don't want to keep it too much longer, because obviously it is late here in Australia, but later for you than me too. So, but I want to look ahead to Bournemouth, because I think it's important as well. After the Bayern win, we dropped points. We were a bit flat as expected. Bournemouth, it's been a game that's done well for us in the last few years, because Irioli and Onai, he likes to play football. He likes to keep space, and it seems to work against him when he plays us. But he would have learned a lot as well The last time he played us, he was very, very complimentary. We beat them 3-1 at Villa Park towards the end of last season when we were securing Champions League football, and they interviewed him after, and he said it's one of the best teams he's come across that can reserve energy whilst controlling a game, he said of Villa's Emery. Two questions I have for you before we do that. One, obviously, Bournemouth, they're getting better all the time, obviously. And, Andoni's doing a fantastic job. They actually enjoy watching them. If Villa aren't on, sometimes I'll throw them on because I think he's a very good manager. They're a very exciting team to watch. They use their spaces very well. Two things I'm going to ask you. One, what kind of challenges do you expect from Bournemouth? Do you think it's a tricky tie or a good tie for us after a European game, considering that they've got the energy, obviously, that to hurt us, but they also leave spaces that we can hurt? And the second question I have for you is, when you look at this Bournemouth team, right, what do you think Andoni will have learned, like, from those experiences, like playing Emery against Emery? Like, is he going to approach the game different this time, being at Villa Park again, considering what he said? And, like, we really hurt them at times last year, if you kind of understand what I'm saying. Like, do you think he will come out in a different shape and try and just close down the space, or do you think he'll have learned, you know what, I can beat them, but we needed to do it this way?
I think in the first instance, when you to your first point, they're going to want to come out and attack and try to beat us, because they're capable. Did they beat Arsenal just the other day?
So last weekend they beat Arsenal 2-0, and it deserved 2-0 as well. It wasn't like a smash and grab, like they deserved to beat Arsenal.
They're no mugs, and I would the way that Andoni's got this team playing is that they're playing with belief and confidence and within their means. If that makes sense, I don't want it to sound sort of disrespectful. They don't have superstars, but they've got decent players, and it's about the way that the coach is setting them up to play against other teams. I don't think they quite have the quality at the moment to be, securing wins week in, week out, or have the consistency. But when they turn up on a particular day, they are extremely dangerous. They are a team who knows how to play football. Sometimes I think the difference between them is that a lack of quality sometimes, or a lack of concentration, could be their downfall. In terms of the way that they approach Aston Villa, I think they will be very respectful of us, more so than they were last season. I think they were respectful of us last season when we won, but I think they'll be a lot more respectful and a bit more cautious in the way that they play us in this. I think if they can get a point, they'll be happy. I think they will be happy to take a point from Villa if they can play in the way that they want to play, because they will still try to play their way. It's just, I think they'll be a bit more cautious, knowing how powerful our midfield and our attacking force is at the moment. Defensively, we're getting better and better every single game. So I think they'll come out, they will want to win the game. I just think they'll be a bit too respectful and be happy if they were to take a draw from us.
Okay, yeah, I kind of agree. It's kind of hard because obviously we're obviously very lethargic after the league game, after the Bayern game. It was the United game. It was United we played after Bayern, wasn't it? We're very lethargic, and I think that's to be expected, because that would have taken a lot out of those players, the Bayern game. Because
I also think we were just a little bit too. We respected them a little bit too much. I think we could have had moments where we could have gone and grabbed them by the throat, the Man United game, but I think we showed them a little bit too much respect. Plus, we were a little bit tired.
Yeah, I think a lot of that would come.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to agree with you there. I think we were pretty lethargic because, like, obviously the Bayern game emotionally would have taken a lot out as well, because we had to defend for long periods of that game. But you look at the Bologna game, it's totally different. We controlled it for periods, and towards the end of the game, we were just doing what we wanted, really, knocking the ball around. So I'd expect a much more energetic performance this week than I did against United, I'd be pretty disappointed if I don't get it. With Andoni, I think you're 100% right. I think he would take a point straight away, and he'll surely have to close those gaps that he had against us last season. I don't think last year he came out with the idea that we can beat them at your own game. I think for lack of a better phrase, I think we'll have put a bit of manners on him this time. I think he'll be a little bit more cautious. But I tell you, I would fear, like, not fear them, but I would be cautious of them a little bit. They're a good side, Bournemouth, and
Very good side.
if we're lethargic like we were against United after the Champions League, then they have the tools to hurt us. But your score prediction
I think we
test,
might
we're
be
into
fresh
this
though.
because
Sorry,
obviously
Spud.
it's 3 p.m.
So just quickly, I think we
Yeah,
might be a little bit fresher in this game. We've been able to rest Watkins, who didn't play for 90 minutes or 70 minutes or
yeah,
whatever it was in the game against Bologna. Luca Dean had a game rest as well. You know, he didn't play. Matty Cash has had a rest as well, and so I think we will be quite fresh when we go back in. I don't think it's a game that Barkley will start. I still think he might start with Tielemans and Onana if Onana's fit.
yeah.
But I think we should be fresh because we've been able to rest some of the players that we didn't rest when we came out and played Man United afterwards, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And of course, there's also the fact that we've got the League Cup during the week, Wednesday against Palace. And that's a huge opportunity where he won't feel that he has to try and keep the squad happy. Like he may not feel the need to make all these changes after 70 minutes against Bournemouth because he'll be thinking, I can start these players Wednesday night. That'll keep them
Mm.
happy, kind of. He's not going to be stuck in that. Let's keep players happy mode. Now, a lot of people say, well, Unai Emery is not going to you care about keeping players happy, but he is. Of course he is. Like if you've got a squad, because most of that bench the other night could start in this team as well. That's the thing, like
Mm.
without dropping the quality. So you've got to keep them happy. And I think the Crystal Palace game in the League Cup probably comes at a good time for us for that. So we can go. He's given them a bit of a run out now. He's given Duran, Matson a bit of a run out in the Champions League. It's going to make them feel important to this team. Starting the Champions League game, he doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily going to feel the need to play them guaranteed him games Saturday because he can start them Wednesday in a game against another Premier League team in the League Cup. And that's where you want us to be. So you're right. I think we will come out fresh. I do expect Luca Dean and Ollie to come straight back into the team, if I'm honest. And I think you're
Yeah.
100% right. I think Onana will start the game if he's not fit. When do you think we see Tyrone Mings? Just quickly before we leave. Do you think it's the Palace game?
I don't think, no. I don't think we see Tyrone Mings really. I think he might get a couple of minutes here and there before Christmas, but I don't think we actually start seeing him properly until after Christmas. I know he's fit. He's fit.
Yeah.
He's had some under 21 games, but at the
Yeah.
moment, why risk it? You know, maybe in some of the games we might give him like that cameo appearance. You know, like we did for Boubacar Kamara, because that's his first cameo that he came on. What did he get? How long did he
Yeah.
get? 20 minutes.
20
Good to
minutes,
see
yeah.
Booba
Which is
back.
pretty good for your first time return.
But
Which
he
is pretty
looked
good, like
ready,
run
didn't
out for
he?
your first time back. He looks ready, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he looked ready to me.
Yeah.
He looked
Yeah.
really ready to me, Booba, and did some really good things. I watched him play in the under 21s game before, and he was pinging passes around. He was making challenges. He was getting around the pitch. He looked like he started to boss the game for the under 21s. Probably had to take him off at half time. He was like, "You're too good to be playing against these kids here," you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'd love to see Tyrone Mings come back. I just don't want. I don't think we should rush him. I don't think we're in desperate need at the moment. But it would be nice to see him maybe in one of the League Cup games and get like a 15, 20 minutes in a League Cup
Yeah, no,
game
but
or something like
that's
that.
what I was saying. Like, that's what I was saying. Do you think we'll see him in the Crystal Palace League Cup game next Wednesday? Because I think, like, I do get your point, Tess. Like, there's no need to rush him back. But also, we're not massive amount of cover at centre back. So surely giving him a run out against Palace, not to start the game, but they need to start feeding him minutes because just in case he is actually needed at this Christmas period. Because let's say we play 3 games in a week, which is going to happen over that Christmas period. Let's say Carlos, who we know misses games, let's say he misses a game, and then Kanza picks up a little injury thing. Suddenly you're going to need Tyrone Mings. You don't want that to be his first
Yeah.
game. So that's why I
I
think
mean,
we
I wouldn't
might
mind
see him
it, to be
against
honest.
Crystal Palace.
I wouldn't mind it. I
Yeah,
wouldn't mind to
yeah.
see him to get some minutes, but I just, yeah.
You think it's a bit early?
I just think
The
it might be a
last
little bit too soon.
the last thing I wanted to touch off, Tess, before we went, because obviously, cause he's probably the only one that looked the real, apart from Bailey, who was on the pitch, obviously looked a bit frustrated. But at the end of the game, Emi Buendia looked very frustrated. He headed off down the tunnel. He was the only one that didn't stay out on the pitch. And I have good authority as well for someone that was at the game that he didn't go around clap the fans. Obviously, he would have been expecting to maybe get a couple of minutes towards the end of that, because he's had a few 10 minutes here and there, but he's not really played. He's not got anything even on the last 2 or 3 games, I'd say. I seen him. You seen the TV? He's celebrating McGinn's goal, mad. But then obviously he didn't get on, and he headed down the tunnel straight at the final whistle. Look, we don't know. Players need to go to the toilet. Players need to do. We don't know why they head down the tunnel. There could be a big reason. They might have something on at the back that they need to do. We don't know. But he surely would have been expecting more minutes since he got those 10 or 15 minutes a couple of weeks ago. Do you think, because I think it's going to happen, do you think there's a loan in the works for Bundy in January? Just to start getting the minutes? Because I think there is, personally.
It's a really difficult one. Because then I start asking questions about, we've got a lot of games this season. Can we afford to let Buendia go out on loan? Really difficult one, because it would be ideal for him to be able to go out and play minutes every week for half a season somewhere.
Yeah.
I think he would be extremely disappointed and might not want to do that because of where Villa are at the moment. He's been out with a horrific injury for such a long time and just starting to come back. And I think he really wants to be, because while he was injured, he was always in and around the dressing room, wasn't he? Like, while he's in rehabilitation, he was always around the dressing room. He's all around the players. And even when the players are scoring goals and stuff, you can see him on the sideline celebrating with John Duran when he's scoring goals and all this sort of thing. And he feels really part of that unit. I think he wants to start playing with that unit as well. And I don't think he's quite there in terms of his fitness yet. When he's come on and played, he hasn't really impacted anything. I mean, of course, you don't expect him to make big impacts, but you expect a little bit more, to see him a bit more on the ball, if possible, and having an effect on the game in some way or another. I think he does need to play more football, and under 21s probably isn't the greatest idea. I would like to see him stay. We've still got League Cup games, we've still got FA Cup games, we've got a bunch of Champions League games left, and there's lots of games in the Premier League. So I would imagine that he will still get minutes in the next few weeks with us. And if he can start showing that he can perform with the current group, the current squad, then he might be ready for selection more often, or even get an opportunity to start games. But I don't think he's fit enough. I don't think he's made an impact enough in the few minutes that he has had. I wouldn't like to see him go on loan. I'd like to stay around the group, because we suffered with injuries last season, and I wouldn't like to see us suffer this season. If a Morgan Rogers gets injured, or a Jacob Ramsey, who at the moment isn't always fit, we don't have too many players who can kind of play like what Buendia does. Difficult. Oh, sorry, I rambled on that one, but difficult question. I'd like to see him stay, but I wouldn't be surprised if a loan move was on the cards for him to try and get him more minutes. But then if he does go on loan,
and try and get him back for pre-season, where he's...
I don't know if he comes back after pre-season though. I hate to say it, so I don't even know why I said it, but if he goes out on loan for half a season, we haven't had him for such a long time due to his injury, but I don't know he comes back after a loan period.
Yeah. Well, it remains to be seen, and we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yes.
I just think it's a bit telling that he's got 10-15 minutes here and there, and then he hasn't really got anything since. Like, you'd think the other night was the perfect chance to maybe get him on for 5 or 10 minutes, like we're 2-0 up. The game was controlled. He clearly wasn't in the thoughts. The 5 subs were made before the 17th minute, So, well, yeah, we'll see. I think he starts the League Cup game because he captained us in the last round of the League Cup. What you've got to understand, because Buendia strikes me as a player who wants to play. So he's got that Conor Horn vibe about him where he's not happy to just sit there and take wage. I think if he's not getting minutes, he may request a loan personally in January. I just don't see it. I don't see him not wanting to play. He's one of those players that wants to play and wants to get in the Argentina squad and stuff. And let's be honest, he had a year out with his injury last year. If he sticks around and not getting minutes, he's almost losing two years of his career. So I think I do think he's going to go on loan in January. That's just my opinion. But I hope not, because I'd love to see him coming over Christmas, have an impact, and there's another option for us because he's. But as you said, the injuries haven't quite really gripped us yet. We've had a couple of injuries. They've all been more around midfield and defence, thankfully. We haven't had too much in the attacking areas yet. So that remains to be seen. It was just a point I just wanted to touch off you what you thought, because I just thought it was a bit surprising you didn't get some minutes there the other night. Well, it was good to be back, Tess. We finally got back on the air after a bit of a hiatus. So hopefully now that'll be the end of the breaks. If people want to find the podcast, Tess, where can they find it?
So you can just search for us on YouTube, the Villa Pride Down Under podcast. If you have a look up there, you'll see what our name is, and that's what we are on YouTube. And on X, you can find us at Pride Down Under. Send us a message, send some questions, give us something to talk about. And opinions, pictures, anything you want, just get involved. We just really want to continue building this podcast, which we've started from scratch. And thank you to all of those of you who have posted comments in the last few weeks. I've been on there and done my best to reply to pretty much everyone. It was good to see that we had some Sydney siders on there that were communicating with us, which is fantastic, and some people leaving some nice comments. And even offering opinions about what we've been discussing. So that's been really, really good to watch. So please keep that up. Of course, like, subscribe, all that juicy stuff, and continue growing with us in this podcast.
Yeah. Cheers, guys. And just as I said, if you enjoy the podcast, hit the like, hit the subscribe. It doesn't cost anything, but it really helps the podcast. We look forward to having Rhino back on again the weekend in the next podcast. Rhino's missed tonight as always. There's going to be periods where there's going to be two of us on, whether it's myself and Tess, Rhino and Tess, myself and Rhino. That's just how it's going to be. But from our point of view, we love when the three of us are on together, because that's what we like to do, get on and have a chat. But yeah, we love, as long as we keep the podcast coming out, that's the main thing, guys, isn't it? And
exactly.
Yeah, and we've a couple of brilliant guests lined up over the next couple of months, and we look forward to keeping this season going, because we're starting to get into the business end now. Once this November international break is out the way, you've just pretty much got a massive run of games all the way through to May. So there's a little break in March, but yeah, one more break, because I can't believe how many international breaks we're going to have had already this early in the season. There's another one coming out in a couple of weeks, and we're on to Bournemouth. So Tess, before I let you go, I want you to finish on, give us a scoreline and your scorers for Saturday, mate.
Oh, it's 3-1 to Villa. John Duran to score, Youri Tielemans to score, and we will go with Ollie Watkins, Duran, Tielemans. 3-1 Villa.
I'm also going to go 3-1, and I think it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be 1-1, and it's going to get into around the 50 or 60 minute, and Emery's going to finally, I know he's tried it once, but always when we were in the game, I think he's going to bring Duran on. We're going to have Duran and Watkins up front. They're going to get one each, and we're going to win the game 3-1. Yes. And then they're going to roll on.
We've got a beautiful team, man, and they're amazing to watch.
Yeah. Guys, thanks very much for having listened. Hit that subscribe, hit those likes, and we'll see you next week. Up the Villa.
Up the Villa, mate.